I appreciate you guys being here, and we're going to talk a little bit about people. We're going to talk about your employees and the importance of your employees and why it's important to concentrate a little bit on them. Has anybody seen some of these headlines nowadays? You know, they're banning self-storage in places. They're doing all these things. I mean, stuff's happening now. You know, about the only time I'm conservative in my life is when I make decisions on money or investing or doing things like that. And I start to see these articles, and I start to read these things in, Texas and in Washington and all these different places. And I start to take caution about building and caution about expanding and caution about everything that's out there. I believe that storage operators are our own worst enemies, operating poorly, doing things that we're not supposed to do, having all interest loans. Things are out there that they're kind of scary. And, when cities start to pay attention and, why are so many storage places popping up around the country? I read an article out of the Chicago Tribune that the title was "Self-Storage, the New Mattress Stores." When you start seeing that more and more, that's concerning. It should be concerning for you guys because after that, you're gonna have a lot of competition come in. And 18 months when all these things start to open up that you see, what's gonna happen? Because everyone thinks they're a great operator. Gladys, who smokes from her trachea and pulls the oxygen tube behind her, thinks that she's a wonderful operator because she's full. Well, she doesn't do anything, but she thinks she's a storage genius. And it's just because we're at the point right now where there's a great demand for it. But as competition gets stiffer, as prices get more aggressive and prices start to drop, there's going to be a big difference in what separates you from your competition. And sure, it's going to be features, it's going to be stuff like that. But a lot of things that's really going to set you apart is going to be your employees. And we just fail to talk about our employees and our employee success a lot in self-storage all the time. We try to hire the cheapest, the worst of the best of the worst. We hire a lot of, we interview 20 people or, oh my gosh, who is the best of the people who can sign an X? And it's really hard to hire good people for self-storage because you want to keep your expenses down. Payroll is a huge, giant expense, so you want to keep those things down. So it's really hard to hire good people. I paid from different pay scales. And so, when I was owner-operator, we ended up starting to pay people $15 an hour just to start out. And that's with benefits and pay time off. And that's what I had to do to compete in a market to get people who are halfway decent. And why should that be a concern? So what's your average length of stay in your facility? You should know that. What's your average price? You should know that. So let's say your average length of stay is 10 months. And your average customer is, your average unit price is $100. So your average customer is $1,000. So if you have, unengaged employee A who just kind of, looks at the computer, takes someone on tour with the security cameras and behind them, which is happened more than once when I secret shop places, yeah, I'm not going to buy from them. And so if they have 2 or 3 of those a month, and you have maybe, 20 demand events, and 3 of those, they just kind of don't put much effort into it, $3,000 that's going to cost you. So what happens if you have an engaged employee that's a little bit better, and they're engaged, and they can get those 3 people and 2 more for that month because they're just a little bit more engaged in your business? I mean, that's exponentially so much more important than anything else. And like I said, the single biggest and best investment you can make is your employees. We want to retrofit these things. We want to put cool locks. We want to do things that, you clap 3 times and it opens and the, door opens upside down or whatever. But the most important thing you can do is to your employees, because the bottom line, what's going to sell a storage unit? Is it going to be, a new tech that comes along, a new app that comes along? No, it's going to be your employees that do it. But we're going to spend a crap load of money. I'm glad I didn't swear. On stuff at the expo, but we're not going to spend anything on the people who talk about it or sell it. So when we hire, these are the people who we want. The guys who want to do everything. We want the tech expert. We want everyone that does everything. And typically, these are the people who we get. Now, storage, I get it. You know, it's January, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's 5 degrees. No one's renting storage. It's tough to have engaged employees. You know, you have a silo. You're by yourself. The next person you know is 10 miles away. You know, you don't have a break room of people who you have social aspects with and things like that. It's tough. And there's boundaries, and there's things you can do to help create engaged employees. And this is really hard. So one of the things you can do is when people come aboard is how you treat them. So in your last job, when you started a new job, how did you feel? This is a question and answer thing. I know we kind of have a small group of people, but how did you feel when you started your last job? Anybody? Excited. Doug, here's a book. One of my favorite books, Power Habits, fantastic book. There you go. Please, anybody beyond that, I'm not going to throw it to you, I promise. Liability is like at the ceiling. Great book, by the way. Highly recommend it. How did you feel about when you started a new job? Was it scary? Yeah, overwhelming, right? It's like drinking from a fire hose because you're like, what the heck is going on? Who do I ask? What do I do? So I started a new job three months ago. It's my first office job I've ever had in my life. Oh my gosh. I have like 50 people now and all these different personalities, and I have an office, and I feel like a grown-up, and you know, my office is no longer my backpack, and it's totally weird, and it's a really hard thing to get used to. And so there's a lot of benefit to having some new people that come online, but you need to be able to do stuff with them. So you feel intimidated, you feel excited, you screw up, you ask questions. This is a great time to be a new employee because you get to get away with a lot of stuff. Oh, he's just new. You know, maybe not like racist comments or stuff like that. You can't do that. I mean, that's inappropriate. But you can get away with a lot of stuff when you're a new employee. And so that's a good thing. We need to encourage that stuff. So oftentimes when we're employers, we tell our new people what to do. Good and bad. You know, I'm not saying that's bad in a sense, but it's very one-sided. So we tell them our culture, written and unwritten. We tell them the written and unwritten rules. We tell them the policy and procedures, and we tell them how to do their job. Very rarely do we ask them how do they feel about this, or we take feedback on what they think about it. It's a very limited time when we bring these new people into our operations before they become indoctrinated into what the system is. And as we know, storage moves at a glacial speed. And so when you have new people who come in, they come in with these new rose-colored glasses and new ideas because from other industries and other experiences. And sure, you know what, some of them might be ridiculous. I have a lot of ridiculous ideas. They're way out there. But you know, a lot of times some of them are right here. And you bring them in and you start to foster this environment. So it's interesting to me that often, there we go. Oftentimes we focus on more reviews outside us, our entity, than we do inside. You know, how much do we focus on these online reviews? A lot. I was talking with my friend Matt Van Horn last night and Megan Smith, and we were talking about how much we would pay for a good Google review. I'd pay $100 for one. If it was a honest, good Google review, easy. I'd easily pay $100 for one. I have. Not that you should, because that's against policy. But if I would do that. But they're worth it, right? Because if I can get one more rental off of that, I would. So I'm paying money, I'm paying a system to do it for me, I'm doing this stuff. How often, because of that, how often do we put effort into this, our people? How often do we come up and ask our new employees, so how did you think about this process? You know, what was something that we could do better? with your experience and knowledge in this whole thing, what's one thing through this process that, we could do differently? And that's the new expectation that you set in your company. Oftentimes we start to play defense. I love college football. It's my religion. Boise State football. You cut my wrist, I bleed blue. We often play so much defense, we're awful at playing offense. And so we want to talk with these new employees because they got great ideas. And we want to create that culture where we can ask questions. And we want to challenge them to find improvements. Just because it's done and it has been set this way doesn't mean it's the right way. I mean, it's okay to change things. And we want to, create some kind of a site. Out there we have, there's tons of things like Trello and tons of cool things out there that we can feature. And we have these lists of stuff that employees' ideas, things we've implemented, things that we are implemented. So we can create this culture of ideas that we can move our business along and really expand it through this rut that we all have in self-storage. So as we listen to these new employees, all the time, we always have these experienced guys in there, and experience creates blinders. Because, everyone walks past that one weed. At my house, there's like one weed, and I walk past it all the time. And, someone new will see that one weed. But you'll start to walk past it, you'll start to create these blinders. Because you've been there so long, you don't start to see these things. But new employees, new people see these things. Nothing's political. Janice, who is the, office gossiper who, oh, you can't trust Janice and you can't do this. There's none of that. You can trust Janice. The new employee can talk with Janice and have a good relationship because they don't know. There's nothing political. There's nothing going on. I mean, we're in small companies and that's a pro and a con. They're 3 times more likely to collaborate with other people because they're new, they're asking questions. They're like, hey, I understand that you're more experienced, so I'm going to come to you and ask questions on how to do these processes. And they're 4 times more likely to look for help. And they don't have the idea of this is how it's always been. So as you start to create this culture, as you start to hire new people, this culture will start to have a common thread throughout every operation that you do. And it'll start to create, this is what you do. So why is this all important other than touchy-feely, cool stuff? Well, it improves your business. It helps create a culture where ideas are welcomed. And it helps create a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. No, we can't, as opposed to not yet. There's not a no. It's just, it's a good idea, but, let's work around this way. And it helps create open ideas. I like to be listened to. I like to have ideas. And, like I said, there's some kookadook ones out there, but, there's some really good ideas. And that's what people bring when they feel like they have a culture to have this stuff. How many of you have a development program for your employees? Right there. All right. Well, that's because you also deserve a book. Could you pass this back a little bit to her? Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Development programs are so important to your people. Personal development programs, they're so important. Everyone in your company, no matter how big or how small, should have a development program. When people come to your company, they lack confidence and they lack skills. They don't know their potential, and they think they have limited abilities. I take leadership and I take being someone who is in a position as almost a sacred responsibility. It really is, because you have influence and power over someone's life. And it's a responsibility to make people better, both as employees and as people. I just really believe that if you can help someone manage their money, they're going to be happier as an employee because they're not going to be worrying about these things. If they're poor-time managers here, they're going to be poor-time managers at your work. So if you help them, they will do that. And plus, it's the right thing to do because we want to help people because it's a good thing. So every employee should have one of these things. Everyone. Before I would assign books to my employees to read. We do every quarterly books. We've read this book right here. We talk about habits. It helped a guy quit smoking. We started taking people for bank accounts, taught them about, the importance of savings. Just things that just help people, because it's going to be nothing but help your business. So everyone should have these things, and they come in just very different varieties of stuff. Give them new roles and responsibilities, both inside and outside of what they do. If someone's interested in graphic design, and that's, not anything, give them 2 hours a week and say, hey, you know what, study about this stuff and learn a little bit more about it. And I want you to do this because, that's an engaged employee. My boss cares because he wants me to progress my life. Have them go to state association shows. Have them listen to podcasts. Cross-train. Teach them about revenue management. Teach them about accounting. Teach them these things. Help them along. And as you do these things, I love this acronym is ACT. Action changes things. So, it's great to read books. It's great to do these things, but actually have an action plan. Because, I love motivational quotes, but you can only, hit the hockey puck so much, or, miss the one shot you never take, or, all that stuff, all the sports things. You can only read those things so many times. But until you start to do these things, nothing's going to change. So you sit down and talk to your employees and say, hey, you know what? I know that this is out of your comfort zone. I get it. And it's designed this way. And I want you to feel uncomfortable, because growth doesn't happen when you're comfortable, because people love to stay comfortable. I do. That's why I look the way I do. And set these milestones for them to grow and to progress toward. Stretch and challenge your people. If they're not growing and they're not, God, you know what? I'm trying to figure this out, but I can't. And I brought in some other ideas, and that's what you want. You want to stretch and challenge your people. And it's storage, but there's so much stuff out there to stretch and challenge your people. Learn about SEO. I knew nothing about SEO. I love tech and I love computers, but SEO is like black magic and algorithms and a wild guess put together. And so I wanted to learn more about it. So I educated myself about it. Every one of your employees can do the exact same thing, and they can help you do that stuff. So what kind of tools are out there to do this stuff? I know budgets are limited. I get that. But there's things that are out there that'll help you with this stuff. Some of my favorites that I've used in the past there's a great site called Lydia. LinkedIn bought Lydia a while back. A lot of your public libraries have free access to this. There's probably, 6,000 videos on there, all done by professionals. If you want to learn about leadership, if you want to learn about marketing, if you want to learn about photography, anything. And these are like experts. Guy Kawasaki, a social networking guy that's probably some of the best. He has a huge, giant series on there. If you want to learn about social marketing, it's phenomenal how much stuff is out there for your people. Podcasts. There's a lot of really good stuff out there. Some that I recommend, Jordan Harbinger Show. I've listened to that, wrote into them a couple times. Coaching for Leaders. It's phenomenal. Some of the best too that are probably out there that I really like. If you want to increase your leadership, those are great things. And you know what you have in storage? You have a lot of time when you're sweeping to do stuff and to listen to podcasts and to do these things. Great Courses Plus, it's real similar to Lydia. You get a lot of courses, and Roku TV, they have an app on there too as well. It's pretty cool. It's like $10, and if you have a large company, you can really extend a lot of this stuff. There's books. That book right there, it's like $7, $8. So it's a great resource for people, and they keep it and they learn from it, and we grow from it. We talk about it in these things. That's a cheap investment for your people. So this is, I know you can't read this, but this is just a small snippet of Lydia. I just took a small screenshot. Desktop apps, developer, games, logo designs, management, marketing, whatever you want to learn. It's so cool. There's so much stuff out there you can challenge your people on. So how should you do this? By setting high goals, doing crazy things like that? Who wants to share one of your goals right now with me? Does anybody have any goals? Hey, there you go. Thank you so much. One person, you bunch of unmotivated people. What goal are you working on right now? Fantastic. Well, hopefully this helps. It's a great book. I'd really encourage you to read this. So, you know what? I love goals. Goals are great. But recently in my life, I've had a chance to really look back and really take an example and see how goals really work. And are goals really the right thing? For me, they're not. So as I've gone back and really looked at my life and see how goals typically are, I see a lot of times I fail at a lot of the goals that I do. And there's a lot of reasons. You know, we make these lofty goals and they're hard to obtain. And there's a lot of reasons why these things happen. And so, since no one has any goals here, everyone can understand that goals are important, right? Because we've been kind of, quote unquote, fed that line a lot. Goals are important. You're not going to go anywhere in life. You know, the strongest memory is worth or the strongest memory is better than the weakest pen, or, you know, whatever that stuff is. So goals are important, but, you know, honestly, what specific goals do you have? Not like I want to get a new house, or I want a Porsche, or, you know, I want to date a blonde, or, you know, whatever. You know, those are very lofty goals. But when you talk about goals, what are kind of like your really specific goals? So goals are very interesting. As I started to study a little bit more about why we have goals and why we don't accomplish the majority of them. But we do. And so my goals that I had and I looked at actually kind of turned into more of a task list as opposed to goals and making my life better. And as I start to look back, and that's kind of how it works. And so I looked at this bell curve, and I love bell curves. Bell curves are amazing. Doug, you had one yesterday, and I love bell curves. Everything always comes back to the bell curve. I mean, it doesn't matter about politics, anything. Bell curves are amazing. So this is kind of like the goal bell curve. We have these people right here that never set goals. You know, they'll never even think about them. And then you have, you know, Michael Jordan, the Golden Ninjas, that, you know, they are so just like driven. They'll say, I want to run a marathon, and then tomorrow they will, and, you know, they'll amputate their right leg on mile 16 and still hop. You know, those are those people. But typically, this is everyone else right here. We set goals, we kind of forget about them, we set more goals, and it's kind of there, and we just like to talk about it and stuff like that. So we have time and effort is basically the formula for goals. And we either succeed or we either fail. That's very black and white. And I don't like to live in a black and white world, even though oftentimes I think that way, either all or nothing. And it's really hard because you don't want to start having a lot of goals when you just kind of think it's an all or nothing thing. So oftentimes you'll have quarter one, 90 rentals. So what are we going to do, guys? We're going to write it down. We're going to talk about the goal. We're going to break it down. We're going to celebrate success. So we're going to break down 30 goals a month. So what happens? Life happens. You get move-ins, you get move-outs. These 90 goals, 90 rentals start to become really commonplace because it's really far, or 30 rentals start to become really commonplace. And day in and day out, 9 hours comes in. All this stuff really starts to wear and tear on people, and people just forget. And, you know, it's just the way people are. And so you either get it or you don't. At the end of the quarter, you have 88. Oh, yay, we almost got it, woo. And, you know, Sheila pops the things, and, you know, the day after, we're back at 0. Cool. I just ran a marathon. What do I do on Tuesday? So not that goals aren't important, don't get me wrong, but goals are kind of more like a compass. So goals are going to set our course. We're going to go this way. Goals are going to set us this way. And that's important because they're going to set our direction. They're going to set us on this course. You know, we want to get these rentals. We want to go this way. So what we're going to start to do is get rid of this all or nothing mindset. It's very momentary. Like, you train for 6 months to run a marathon, and you run it on Saturday, and then it's Sunday, and cool, I've been doing this for the last 6 months. Now, what do I do? And then you just start over. So what I want to do is stop focusing on the vehicle and start focusing on what goes into the vehicle. Like your daily things, like your daily habits. So like, for example, you start focusing on the gas, the oil, the antifreeze, the blinker fluid. You start focusing on all those things that start to go in the vehicle. There's a story about the UK a while back. The cycling team had a really poor performance for consistently throughout the years over at the Olympics. They had a new coach, and this new coach said, hey, you know what, we're going to stop focusing on the time, and we're going to start focusing on what we do. So they start to analyze everything that they did, very just down to the things. So they changed the pillows. They changed the pillows to the best pillows they could find. They started using antimicrobial soap so everyone could stop getting sick. They painted the color of the trailer differently so it could, have a better temperature. They brought in a sleep doctor so people could get better sleep, and no one's ever done this before. And so they stopped focusing on reaching this goal down here, and they started focusing on the stuff that goes into the vehicle. And what happens is after that year, they won gold for years after that because they started focusing on these little things. Where everyone else was putting so much time and effort into decreasing their time and doing this stuff, and who cares what pillow we're sleeping on? Who cares what we use to wash our hands with? Who cares about this stuff? But this coach was focusing so much on these little things to make these behavior changes. The numbers came down here. And that's the idea that I'm talking about. They set their goal and it set their course, but now they worked on what went into the vehicle. So, I've all heard this quote, God is in the details. Well, you know what? Heard that quote too, the devil's in the details. So, if both sides say the details are important, you better believe the details are important. So, you got God and the devil saying, hey, you know what, worry about the details. Well, the details are important. And it's tough. I'm not a detail-oriented guy. I'm a big picture guy. And so it's possible to retrain yourself to worry and look about the details, because those are the things that are going to get you down to the big picture. Like I always tell everyone, storage is a business of inches and not miles. It's the little things you do every day that are going to make your biggest impact, a year, 18 months down the road. It's the getting rid of the half off the first month discount. It's the increase of $2. It's the things that you do every day that are going to make the biggest difference down the road. Absolutely, 100%. So what I want you to do is start focusing not on the rentals, but start focusing on the behavior. So right now, you can start focusing on things you do every single day. So as opposed to focusing on getting a rental, I want you to focus on, so how do you greet that person? Where do you greet that person? What do you say to that person? Where do you ask a specific question in a tour? You should know that. If you're walking and you talk about security cameras and there's no security camera around, that's pretty dumb. But when you're walking and there's a security camera, that's a great time to point out the security camera. So where you ask these things, how you ask it, you explain it in a feature-benefit manner. These are things that are important. And how do you ask these things? Do you ask good questions that are just yes or no questions? Do you learn more about the customer? So what are you needing storage for? What's going on in your life? People will spill their guts out because they want to buy stuff from people they like. So you can talk with them a little bit more. Get a rapport. That's great. Focus on those things as opposed to, I need to get 90 rentals for the quarter. So what they do is these questions, I just kind of took these down to 3 to make it easy. So you start to focus on small behaviors that you can achieve daily and hourly. So you take a tour, okay, yeah, I did that. Okay, so I just did that. So I asked the question in the right spot. I said these right things. There's no all or nothing. So, if I missed one right there, I can do it in the next hour. So it's very just, I missed it here, but I can do it there. It's not, I've been working on this for the last, 3 months. I missed it by 2. Well, dang it, I got another 3 months to go, and, we'll try it again. It's, your next hour or your next tour, your next phone call, you can have the success you have. And so you start to build these things. You're developing the most important thing. You're developing habits. As you start to do these things, you take your tour, you can start doing your tours in your sleep. And you start talking about these things, and you know exactly when you step right here, boom, here's our security camera. And for the convenience, here is this and that. And it starts to become a habit, and you don't have to think about it. And that's where you want to be. Whoa, that's the wrong one. There we go. So right now, your goals are like Godzilla, 90 rentals. I love B-rated movies. They're great. So these are your goals. This is Godzilla. This is the guy who we're fighting right now. And as we focus on behaviors, this is the guy you're fighting. And I don't know about you, but I would much rather have a beat down with Kermit the Frog than Godzilla any day. And so as you start to work on your behaviors and focus on those things, you're going to start being able to conquer smaller things and having much more success than taking on Godzilla, because you can take down Kermit. I promise you. So you got your gas, blinker fluid. You start to think these things, and you don't have to think about driving anymore. You used to. You don't have to anymore because it's become a habit. And that's what you want to do. As you start to form these habits, your numbers are going to come. These things are going to happen. Like the guys who started using microbial soap. The numbers are going to happen. You're going to get less sick. You're going to get better sleep. You're going to score better. Things are just going to work. So as you start to do these things, there's certain things you need to do. If you want to develop better habits, you want to decrease the friction. If you want to get rid of bad habits, you want to increase the friction. Naturally, we're lazy people. I know I am. So if I want to not watch TV as much, I'll put the TV somewhere it's inconvenient. And it'll make it a little bit harder for me to do things. So increase friction if you want to get rid of bad habits. Decrease friction if you want to encourage good habits. So let's say you want to keep your store a little cleaner. And let's say you want to do these things. So, where do you put your broom? You put your 2-foot broom in the utility closet. How often is that? That's pretty high friction because you don't see it. It's in the utility closet. It's 2 feet. So what do I want to do? I want to decrease the friction, reduce the friction. So I'm going to buy a 4-foot broom because we have 5-foot hallways. I don't have to go down it twice. It reduces the friction. And I'm going to put it in the office where we can see it all the time, as opposed to the 2-foot broom because, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to do this hallway twice just to cover it. And now I have this, so I'm going to reduce the friction, make it easier for people to do things. So what does it all do to Joe Sloth employee? So it reduces the friction when they become a new employee. It makes it easier for them to become better. It makes it easier for them to be part of your company. They feel listened to. They come into your thing and they have a great plan. I came in and, when I tried to find out what the person's favorite stuff was, if they're, a college football fan or something like that, I went and got their favorite thing or got them a cool pair of socks or, whatever. This is just really cheap and easy things to welcome people in, a good onboarding process. And that's part of it with their personal development plan. And then you start developing good personal habits and good professional habits. I feel listened to as an employee. I feel that if I have an idea, I can tell someone about it. And because, I see this list, these are things that employees brought to the company, and this is how we've changed. That's really cool. You shouldn't have the same company that you had a year ago, because your employees should introduce new ideas and function things and change things out, and you should be able to develop stuff and change how you do things. So how do you know it works? Try it. You can screw up a lot in self-storage. A lot. Trust me, I have. You can screw up a heck of a lot, other than, selling people stuff and, legal stuff. Don't screw any of that stuff up. But other than that, you can screw up a heck of a lot. And you can always go back to what you're doing. Always do that. And try it. If it fails, cool. If it works, great. I've learned so much more from my failures in my life than I ever have from any success ever in my life. So as we progress, we're always caught in this rut. A lot of times I talk about how storage is caught in a rut. In technology, I think we're progressing in a rut in self-storage. As we train people, we're progressing in a rut in self-storage because we just kind of exist in our own little, biosphere. So how are we going to get out of this rut? How are we going to, bring some new ideas into your company? How are we going to do this? So I love this because I do this all the time. So we're going to beg, borrow, and steal from other companies. And I've done this so many times when I was with another company. So when we have this growth mindset, we always want to be learning and improving. So we're going to be looking at different things. When I'm in the mall and I see a really cool ad that J. Crew has. One time I saw these snowmen that were made out of white cardboard boxes. I'm like, that's really cool. White cardboard boxes. That sounds like a storage thing. And so I took a picture of it, ordered white cardboard boxes, made snowmen for it, and put it all in my store. People loved it because I borrowed or stole that from J. Crew. They over-caffeinated millennials that think up this stuff. So you just, use what they have. And so, when you find stuff that's out there in the industry, outside the industry, take a picture of it. How can you take that and apply that into your storage work? Always question, never accept. Never accept that there's only one way to do these things and one way to think about these things. And what I've always done, how I've always trained myself, is that life isn't just black or white. And start looking at things in terms of percentages and relationships as terms of percentages. Now, what I mean by that is you can be totally confident about something and being 20%, but you're open to different things. When I think there's a lot of issues nowadays in politics and people's ideas and stuff because people are so black and white, because they're so just polarized and so unwilling to open up and just think about different things. And whatever it is, but when we are 100% and we have that fixed mindset, we're not open up to any ideas that are out there. And I'm not talking about politics, but I'm talking about just normal stuff. When we say, this is my baby, this is how I do things, this is how I do revenue management, you're 100% fixed mindset. I can be confident that I do a good job at revenue management and be 40%. I'm looking at this situation, I'm 40% confident, but I know I can do a great job at it. But I'm willing to talk with other people and listen to other people and see what they have to say, because I'm looking at things in terms of percentages, because it's not black or white. I'm open to learning new things. I'm open to trying new things. I'm open to learning about how things work and how things happen. Revenue management, like I said, 60% confidence. So let's learn more about revenue management. I want to go to a hotel. I want to learn how hotels do revenue management. Cool. How do other places do revenue management? I want to learn. I talked to a guy the other day, and we were talking about unit mixes and how I'm like, hey, start pricing your outside units higher than your climate-controlled units. Well, why? Because climates are better. It's climate control, temperature control. They should be higher. Well, no. I mean, let's use the outside ones, because people may want the convenience. So let's charge $10 more, $15 more. So if they want to just pull up, load, and chuck your stuff in there, you're going to pay for it. So it's just another way to look at things. He's like, I never thought about that. And we just, increased his income by at least $400 a month. But he was so fixed with climate has to be higher. It has to be higher, that he wasn't willing to look at it in a different way, because he was 100%. Hey, is it right or wrong? No. I mean, it is what it is. But he was, so just closed-minded. But when you start looking at, I can be confident at 60%, well, I'm going to be open up to that idea. Or, I really like how hotels price higher on Fridays as opposed to Mondays. How can I apply that and put that into my storage operation? I really need to think about that. How does that work? In closing, so here's some companies that I've borrowed stuff from. Enterprise, I rented a car. We used to give away free trucks at my place. And I'm like, oh, Enterprise, they do total things online to get a rental car. Why can't I figure out how to do that for our trucks so I can limit the time for the customer to be in the store? Figured a way how to do that. HubSpot has a calendar invites, and so I put a thing on our website that says, if you want us to schedule an appointment, come see us. I just tried it. And so people would schedule appointments to come and check out storage. Because it's kind of that low commitment, high return. It's a lot easier just to click and schedule noon as opposed to pick up the phone and say, hey, I want to come and visit you. Even though it's weird to think about that, people are like that. So there's things out there you can steal. McDonald's, there are little kiosk things where you can order your stuff. What kind of software is out there that you can, turn it around and have an iPad, and where if it's, you have a line of 15 people and some people just need to make some payments, is there some software out there you can just have over there in the corner and it says payments? Like McDonald's. What's out there that you can do stuff with? JetBlue Airlines, I love this. They have this little sign on their carry-on stuff. It says, at JetBlue, we love all shapes and sizes, but let's make sure we get the right one for you. And so I love that. So I took a picture of that, and I put that under my unit descriptions. I put, at so-and-so, we love all shapes and sizes, but let's make sure we get the right storage size for you. There's just so many cool things out there that you can do to help your operation and help things grow. So I encourage you to beg, borrow, and steal, no matter what your mom says. My name's Rick. I'm going to go to the Andros A Room. I'm on LinkedIn. Please follow me because I post a lot of things about storage, leadership, and a lot of stuff. So please follow me. Other than that, I appreciate you guys' time. Thank you.